Hello, it is I, Broderick Wallace, and I typed in all of just the simplest way that I could express my qualities, and one of those like AI art programs, this is the image that it threw up, and I thought it's quite accurate, really. It even gave me the optional mask there, so very nice. Anyway, just emerging from Kazad-dum at the moment. That won't make sense, but don't worry about it. And let's just for a moment talk about alchemy, because alchemy is one of those subjects where it's like, what? Like, I mean, supposedly there is this process where we're all familiar with turning lead into gold in the physical sense, and then there's the inner alchemy. And I did attend a lecture on alchemy just yesterday, actually, and it was really nice, really interesting, at the Atlantis bookshop. Lovely people, lovely day, and it's funny how everything's coming together on this subject. But I don't want to go into like excessive detail or anything, because I mean, alchemy just is the spiritual process, isn't it? You can look at the alchemical process and say, right, we're starting off with this. The analogy of the Black Madonna, which receives the seed of God, if you like, the Immaculate Conception, thus producing the Christ child, the lesser light, the Son. And this talk was going into all of the symbology from a Christian perspective, how this is encoded into cathedral architecture and all this kind of stuff, it's really fascinating. Like, you find this same process in all of the traditions, and this is what all of the practices are aiming at, this transformation, whereby you're dealing with the physical vessel and you're introducing an otherworldly relationship, if you like, this shining between two worlds idea again. And I had I'm going to share a vision that I had a few years back here, or a visitation, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm just lying in my bunk at the moment, and so it comes to mind. I won't go into the cause right here, right now, but this, I want to explain the result. And the result was that buzzing sensation, moving into resonance with a presence in the night. So you become conscious while your body is still asleep. Now, I've found that meditation enables you to stretch out these experiences, because you're training the mind to observe and remain calm, if you like, especially the vacancy exercise. And this is, I mean, I was meditating for a little while before this happened anyway. So basically, Hermes Trismegistus appears in the room, and he looks just like the classic image that we're all familiar. Hang on, I've probably still got it on my phone. Let me find it. I found out actually that it's only when I add music to these videos that all the images go out of sync. Right. Or did I erase it? I probably did, didn't I? I probably thought, I don't need that. I don't need that. Oh. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, this is nice anyway. But you know the image that I'm talking about. Hermes Trismegistus with his hat and his robes. The classic depiction. And what was unusual, I mean, if as if that isn't unusual enough, is the fact that Hermes Trismegistus was two-dimensional, perfectly flat, as if he'd literally come off of the page into the room, and in black and white as well. And the room was filled with what I can only describe as astral breath, this swirling presence of what was immediately known as the explicit knowing, the explicit knowing of the air element. So it was communicating the fact of the air element as its presence, as its essence, if you like. Hermes Trismegistus, air element, this astral breath. So this otherworldly breathing. So we fast forward years later, a few years later, to me lying here, and I mean, it's no secret because it's written in Initiation into Hermetics that you are to partake in these breathing exercises. And as we know, because we make the parallel with the the Eastern traditions, that when we partake in these breathing procedures, these practices, they change the personality. So therefore, they change the elemental quality within the body, soul, mind, system. You know, I have thought to myself in terms of the spirit. I do wonder if the spirit is perfect. If we can't call upon the spirit in some way, or imagine the spirit as being the ideal, I'm not sure if the spirit needs to change. I mean, just an idea, something that it seems to make sense to me. So therefore we have the classical elements of the Western tradition. Right, this is where we bring in alchemy. Is it called an athanor? This alchemical vessel, this where heat is applied, etc. You can see how the you can see the metaphor there. I'm not familiar with all the different processes of alchemy, and the red powder and the green lion, and I mean, it's all kind of maybe I'll look into that more at a later date. But if it's something that you're not working with, you don't really have a reason, and you can flick through these books, and it's kind of exciting, and but I tend to come back to the idea that this is a way of coding secret information that at the time you might get literally, burned at the stake for. But then when you throw in the mysterious, what's being called the builder culture, and I got this term from Ben's Uncharted X channel, the builder culture. It's a really good word for these mysterious, ancient, where it looks like they're machine tooled megalithic stones and etc. Especially in Egypt and South America, just these anomalies, these historical anomalies, which can't be carbon dated, and they're attributed by archaeologists to various periods. And it's obvious now, as lay enthusiasts, we know the game's up. Archaeologists out there, the game's up. We know that these are vastly ancient. We know they don't make sense. We know that the ancient Egyptians, in the way that we think of them, couldn't have made these with copper tools, etc. The Incas didn't carve these objects, they built on top of them. You see these large stones with smaller stones on top. This will make sense. So let me find another image. Actually, here I was staring at this wall, and even though this is a fairly innocuous piece of masonry work here, it does show that the larger blocks were respected and built on top of, even just recently. So it's funny how it does. It's kind of a cute parallel to these. This is the Assyrian in Egypt here. So anyway, when you have a notion of these mysteries, that's why I have to keep open-minded about real alchemy. There are these boxes in the Serapeum in Egypt which are phenomenal. I mean, you have to watch this series on Uncharted X, Ben's channel. I'm a big fan of this channel. I like Magical Egypt as well, but I have to say, Uncharted X, it's awesome. Like, in the mid-90s, I got into this whole subject with, megalithic architecture and archaeoastronomy, Graham Hancock, Robert Bevell, John Anthony West, etc., all that kind of thing. And Uncharted X is the video companion which I wish I had at the time. All I had was these books, and that's wonderful because it's good to have gone through that period without the internet handy, and to have spent time with words, reading, for all the benefits that provided. But this channel is the visual companion to all of those books, and it goes into all of the subjects. So this is why I think you have to keep open-minded, because the sheen on these perfectly flat surfaces on the boxes in the Serapeum, that's some kind of alchemy. How did you move these stones? How were they cut like this? The tube drill cores as well, and the vases, and those stones at Baalbek, all of this stuff. But thinking about alchemy specifically, the dripping on the underside of these polished surfaces on these boxes in the Serapeum. This is really intriguing. This does relate to the word for Egypt, Kemet or Kem, whatever it is, the word that the ancient Egyptians actually, called their country. This becomes chemistry, this specialization in chemical processes. I mean, there's a link there. So I think you definitely have to keep open-minded that when you pick a subject like this, it doesn't have to sit in one category. But things do scale up. It's like the as above, so below thing. They scale up, they scale down. So there's going to be parallels with the spiritual journey in the physical world. And there doesn't have to be one explanation. But anyway, this process of breathing, it's really peculiar, and I wish I knew this years ago, because it's just such a simple thing. I haven't talked a lot about the elements, and this information has been taught to me through initiation into Hermetics from my teacher, and obviously conversations with friends, etc. But it's not a secret. It's out there, but it doesn't get talked about much on the internet. So I want to just say something about this process of alchemy. We are the vessel, the experiment, and the heat that is applied, and the various chemicals. This is stress from the outside world. This is factors that we don't necessarily choose, these things that get mixed up, and these processes that we inflict upon ourselves in this process. So, but the key thing is the idea of breathing, because breathing is way more than simply providing your body with oxygen. There's a massive mystery surrounding breathing, and I can only go so far with this, but it does seem that learning to breathe properly and the breath as the essential component, or one of the essential components within the meditative process. It's a kind of miracle how this affects the elements within the self. Now, the elements, of course, that's another whole subject, but we know that obviously fire, air, water, earth, these represent archetypal and universal qualities. Again, the as above, so below. These qualities are found in nature, but they're found also in the personality. It's a universal thing. So fire doesn't necessarily mean actual fire, but an expansive process. Water is contractive and reflective. Air is expansive and very much of the intellect, hence Hermes Trismegistus. Hermetics is an intellectual path, but it definitely does swing over into the you might say, I don't know, the matters of the heart. It's funny, Hermetics is definitely a path of service, and this equates with the high magic thing. So you could kind of bring in Venus and the sun in this. Of course, everything is combined, but the centering point is on an intellectual process in terms of discipline, examination, wisdom, knowledge. Moving to Earth, this is a difficult one, because for a long time I couldn't quite place this properly, but it definitely seems to be rooted in not only a sense of wholeness, but a kind of resolute, imperturbable, almost like a stone. It's staying the course. It won't be moved. So, of course, the fifth element, which is also the first, or zero in a way. This is the prima materia, the cause outside of matter. This is like another whole thing, but boiling it down simply to this practice of breathing in a disciplined way, whereby the vessel is in a certain position, is composed, either, usually we think of the classic lotus posture or whatever, but I actually do prefer throne posture. And as the Egyptians are depicted, the pharaohs, which gets into the other subject of where these images came from. Again, it's a builder culture thing, when you think that the inscriptions upon these statues are rough and coarse and are not of the same quality as the rest of the sculpture, which is, from our perspective, virtually impossible. That's why I haven't met a lot of people that are into the whole spiritual game who are also really into the ancient mysteries. But I think these two things marry perfectly, and they give you an appreciation for what's possible. In other words, the seemingly impossible seems to be possible. It really does open your mind up